Hey, welcome back to Even More Mashed Up. We are the pop culture podcast, talking about all things pop culture. Appreciate the woohoo. I'm Alan.
And I'm Patrick, and we are the best there is at what we do.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
thank
pretty
you.
good.
Thank you.
Pretty
And
good.
if you understood that reference, then you know what we're talking about today.
And if you didn't understand that reference, you still have no idea what the program's about.
Exactly.
Although you probably do, because when you clicked on it on Spotify, it probably had a title.
Oh, yeah, it
that
does have a
said-
title, yes. It
Yes,
does
they're
have
not
that-
listening to it now.
Yeah, that's true.
They will actually be clicking on it.
That is
through
a very good point.
So
I
it
am
turns
not at
out-
my best this morning.
Now that I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
we do this
Every
every
time.
show. Like people are going to be like, oh,
What are they talking about?
what might it be today? And they've actually already read the title.
Yes, this is how sharp we are.
Yeah.
7 years in.
7 years in.
We just figured out the entire... I mean, given our intros are not great to begin with,
True.
but now they are completely unnecessary.
Well, I would say, yeah, totally unnecessary.
Yeah, ooh,
But-
big surprise what we're talking about here, folks.
But Zach would say,
Yeah.
you're always learning in this business,
Mm.
right? Right, Zach?
Yeah.
Always.
See?
Some
There you go.
of us
So-
Always.
more slowly than others.
It's true. It's true.
But yes, today we're talking X-Men on the occasion of the month of their 60th anniversary.
60th anniversary.
Yep. Published,
X-Men are
first published in
old.
1963. So are we, my friend.
So do the math. Well, that's probably why we're talking about it.
Yeah, it probably
Yeah,
is.
I'm going to bet this one doesn't get as many downloads.
I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of big X-Men fans out there.
Are there?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like X-Men are kind of outdated.
No, X-Men's huge.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Trust me. There's tons of X fans.
X fans. See, that's the problem.
No,
Former fans.
No. X like X.
Once used to be fans.
Like X-Men. X fans.
Because the stupid Avengers
X
came
fans.
and like took all the oxygen out of the room.
Well, that's a topic for next week. Here's
Oh, by the way,
the
Toy Hall of
stupid
Fame
Avengers.
coming. So that's just a teaser for the listeners. We're going to do a show on the Toy Hall of Fame.
We
right?
are, but in the last couple of years, we've waited until they've announced the winners, which is
Sure.
around November.
Yeah, so it's coming. That's
In a couple
couple
months.
months away.
So-
Yeah. I don't think it's too soon to tease.
Okay.
By the way, can I just go off topic very briefly?
No. You
Damn it.
cannot go
All
off
right.
topic. No,
I will not.
you can go off topic. It's the very briefly I object to.
It-
Oh!
Oh, you want it to be longer?
No.
'Cause that's what it seemed like you were objecting to, that it was too brief.
No. I was saying you could not do very brief.
No, I'll do my best. Last weekend, I went to see the movie Bottoms,
Oh, yes.
and I want to strongly endorse
Okay.
this movie.
Is this
I'm
another
not going
thing
to
I
give you
need
any
to-
spoilers, but let me give you,
Do I need to add this to my list of things Alan tells me to watch?
yes, that you don't watch,
Yes.
parenthetically. So
That's a different list. I watched some of them.
It's all the same. So if I had to give you just a fingernail sketch
Mhm.
of an overview of what it was,
Mhm.
imagine
Mm-hmm.
a lesbian fight club
Mm-hmm.
set in a high school
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit of Heathers, although not Heathers. I know you're not a huge Heathers fan.
No, I like Heathers.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, Vicky doesn't like Heathers.
I thought.
No, I like
okay.
Heathers.
So it's not Heathers, but it is like a
Heather-esque.
spiritual descendant. It has a significant role played by Marshawn Lynch,
Oh.
and at the same time, it makes a bell hooks joke.
Oh, wow.
It is a capacious movie. It is.
A Bell Hooks joke. Okay. I might have to go see
It
that.
is. Yeah, when they dropped the bell hooks joke, my response was, "What exactly am I watching here?"
Is this made for me?
Well, it's only.
Yeah. Did you
It's not
stand
as if
up?
Bell Hooks-
I understood that reference.
I think I might have been the only one in the theater who laughed at that reference.
That
but
sounds about
I
right.
mean, bell hooks is fairly niche. If you're not
If you're not in that,
an
yeah.
academic theorist, you
Yeah.
probably don't know who bell hooks
Yeah.
is.
I mean, she's got a slightly broader range than
Sure.
that, I would say. But still, to your typical movie-going audience member, yeah. That's
So anyway, I tried
But that's
to be
not
brief,
what we're talking about today.
But I just wanted to give a quick thumbs up from the podcast.
Mashed up recommendation.
That's right. Just a quick mashy.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So
The
let's
Mashies
talk
are the
X-Men.
fake awards we give.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even pay attention.
I might not be.
But yes, so X-Men.
I think that's what we're talking about. Or was it Bottoms? I can't remember.
I don't want to do more in case we get sued.
Right. You can only do I don't
So
know.
much.
I think you can do like 4 seconds. And
That's
then it
about 4
becomes-
seconds.
What if you did it kind of funny? Then it would be parody protected. See, there you go. You can do that forever.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yes.
So let's talk X-Men.
Yes. Where would you like to start? Should we start with how we got into X-Men?
Yeah, I think I've told this story before.
Possibly.
My story can go really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little kid.
Yep.
We used to go downtown Akron to this place that was like the greatest place in the world because it sold ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
It had an ice cream shop in it, and it had a newsstand in it that sold
That's a good combo.
books. So we only went once or twice, 3 times a year, so it was a big deal when Philip, my brother, and I went to see or to visit this place. And one day we were supposed to go, and we were meeting friends. It couldn't be rearranged, and I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Had to stay home. And it was like, it felt like the most disappointing thing in my life. I have lived since then to realize
greater disappointment.
It was only the tip of the iceberg of the disappointment in my life. But so my brother got to go, and he brought me back a copy of X-Men 95, which is the Death of Thunderbird issue.
Classic.
I read it. I loved it. And I kind of read X-Men ever since.
There you go.
That's my story.
All right.
How about you?
Yeah, my story is much less, heartfelt.
I don't think anybody's surprised by that.
What does that mean? It's hurtful.
I don't know what it meant. It could have meant anything, really.
It just seemed mean. That was mean. No, so, I mean, I growing up as an Avengers fan, X-Men was not something that I really collected.
Right.
I encountered them a few times, like they were in the first issue of Contest of Champions, which I got.
Of course you did.
They were in Secret Wars, issue 2, which I got.
Of course.
But neither of those were really great. And then I had like some random issues here or there. Like for some reason, my parents got me New Mutants 13 at some point.
Interesting.
Which I remember having, but I don't own anymore, which is odd because I owned lots of comics much earlier than that. And yet I apparently let New Mutants 13 go. Oh. Not a big New Mutants fan, apparently.
I love the New Mutants.
I know
you
do.
Kind of my title.
So and then they got me classic X-Men, whichever issue reprinted like the first fight with the Juggernaut of the new X-Men.
Right.
And then like Uncanny X-Men 219.
Okay.
So
you're really just a dabbler
here or there. Well, and then
universe.
And then I would get them as like I got all of the Inferno issues of everything Marvel put out. So like I got all those issues, and same thing for Acts of Vengeance.
I bet you still know more about the X-Men than I do.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I would put my money.
But
on
really,
you.
I really didn't like Excalibur was the first mutant title I actually started collecting, and then I think. Extinction Agenda is the point at which, from when I started collecting X-Men, for quite a while. I think I gave up around the Zero Tolerance crossover.
Do you have them polybagged with the cards in them still
unopened? Do you even need to ask?
Remember, we thought we were going to get rich. I'm going to buy 2 copies. One I'm going to read, one I'm going to save, and in 10 years, I'm going to sell my comic book collection, and I'm going to make $10 million.
Yeah, no, that hasn't happened.
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. Yeah. No, my polybagged covers A through E of X-Men #1 are not. Yeah,
not worth much, are they?
You sometimes see those on eBay, and it's like $50. I'm like, I can get it for $4.
Yeah, that's somebody just trying to like take advantage.
Gouge
of
people.
Doesn't know what they're actually buying. Yeah.
Though I mean, the one thing that I do have that's of value from that time is I do have New Mutants 98, which is the first Deadpool.
So I have this. This is Bobby's favorite story of my comic book collecting. Mm-hmm. I have a huge run of New Mutants. Yeah. The only one missing.
Yeah.
Number 98.
I don't understand how you
only the debut of Deadpool. It's the only one I don't have.
Yeah.
The only one of any value. It's the one I don't have.
Yeah, and that's the one. I have that. Well, because I did.
You want to give it to me just to complete my collection?
No, I don't. I mean, I'll sell it to you.
I'm sure you would. That's why one of us has heart.
Yes.
And the other is
and
cold,
the other
hard, calculating
mean
man.
Things about me. So I come and go with X-Men.
Yeah.
Like I've been getting it now since the Krakoa era. And here and there I pop in and out.
But not all of it since Krakoa, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. I tend to go for the quirkier titles.
Yeah.
Like I do Excalibur.
You like the magical stuff,
I did X Factor.
I found Excalibur hard to read.
The
Krakoa, like the real magical.
I liked the first bit.
Yeah.
But then I didn't care for it. When it got to part of it is that I don't think it did really well in terms of like you had to be reading it from the beginning to kind of get what was happening in every issue.
I read it from the beginning and I didn't get it.
But yeah.
So we can talk about that as we move along. I brought a lot of numbers for you today.
Oh, really?
Like you know how you always quiz me on numbers and I just guess random numbers?
I brought no numbers.
And you think it's fun?
I have no numbers.
Oh, I've got some good number stuff.
Oh, excellent. Please. Yeah. Please, let's do numbers.
But we need to get to certain categories to do that.
Okay.
So do you want to start with a number?
Sure. Or what category or?
All right. So one thing you talking about were X-Men franchises. or things that like they spun out of the comics.
Yes.
So I'm thinking movies.
Okay.
So I went to Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And I collected the name of 14 X movies.
Okay.
And their score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
So I thought I'd start at the bottom,
mm-hmm.
which gives you a clue in terms of how to guess numbers.
Okay.
And work our way up.
Okay.
What do you think is the worst rated X-Men film or film based on the X-Men?
Jeez, there's a lot of options.
This one's a clear winner, by the way, I would say, in terms of Rotten Tomatoes voting.
Is it X-Men Origins Wolverine?
It is not.
Is it Dark Phoenix?
It is Dark Phoenix.
I was like, it's got to be one of those two. Like, I was like, it's got. I was kind of thinking, like,
and go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, people really don't like Dark Phoenix, but X-Men Origins Wolverine is just such a bad movie that I was like, it's probably one of those two.
The only good thing about X-Men Origins Wolverine was how upset you got about the. Is that the one where they put like the parasite inside?
What?
Oh, like Wolverine, there's something about his healing factor that you got really upset with.
No, that's the Wolverine.
Oh, the Wolverine. Yeah.
Where I think it was the Wolverine when he has his healing factor taken away. Yeah.
He got so mad. All right, so here's the quiz.
Okay, so Dark Phoenix, dead bottom.
What is the score?
Oh, what's the score?
On Rotten Tomatoes. What is... Now you're thinking, like, how low could an X-Men
Oh, it's probably
movie
pretty
go?
low. Is it like a 20?
That's darn close. It's a 22.
Okay, yeah.
A 22.
Yeah, people really don't like the Dark Phoenix movie.
I think there are worse movies in the list.
I would argue, like, Dark Phoenix isn't bad, it's just kind of dull.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it's not, yeah, and yeah, it's just very dull and kind of uninspiring, but there are worse things on that list.
Right, so 13, The New Mutants.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have sadly never seen.
I've seen it. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's not great. But yeah, I actually like the New Mutants better than other films in the X-Men.
And so, what's the Rotten Tomato score?
Jeez, 30?
36.
Okay.
So far, so good. Number 12 is X-Men Origins.
Wolverine. Okay.
Yep. Number?
40.
38.
38, okay.
You've only missed by like 2 to 6 points. So you're doing well.
I'm the best there is at what I do.
All right.
What I do is numbers.
No, yeah, number 11 is X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you take Oscar Isaac, drop him into the X universe, and make a film that's really not very good?
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, X-Men Apocalypse again is yeah. Well, just as with many things in the X-Men film universe, like Apocalypse should have been a much cooler character than they did with him. But the problem is, like, and this is my line about the X-Men movies in general, is that they've always felt very kind of limited by kind of a kind of realism that they're going for.
Yeah.
And so instead of like a really cool Apocalypse, we get Oscar Isaac in, the blue suit.
I think Apocalypse is hard to do.
Well, there's that too.
It just seems like a villain that's hard to do. But yeah, it was. So what's the Rotten Tomato number on that?
What was Origins Wolverine? That was the one right before
feels
that.
Like we're cheating, but I'll say it was 38.
38. So I'll say this is a 42.
47.
Okay.
So we're 1, 2, 3. We're 5 movies in.
We're already close to 50%.
We haven't. Well, 4 movies in, and we haven't gotten to 50% yet. That's not.
Well, but you're on a list of 13 though, so. Or
okay.
14, so.
Yeah, so number 10.
Yes.
Deadpool 2.
Really? That's that low?
Yeah.
That's a surprise. 55.
56?
Yeah.
I have to say, I didn't love Deadpool 2, but it is worth loving just for the X-Force scene.
Yeah, I get
just that scene alone.
I like that, and then I like the Juggernaut scene when he first shows up.
Yeah.
I like that. So
it has its moments.
It has its moments. I mean, it's not doing anything terribly different from the first film, which is probably my knock against it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a perfectly decent Deadpool film.
For Deadpool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Deadpool. It does kind of suffer a little bit from, we've already done a Deadpool film.
Yeah. Well, it also suffers from, hey, we've got to have Negasonic Teenage Warhead in this, but there's nothing really for her to do.
Yeah.
Right. And stuff like so. Yeah, there is some, but it's also got a great Domino. So
it does.
That probably deserves to be higher on the list, I'd say.
All right. So number 9,
mm-hmm.
X-Men: The Last Stand.
Oh, geez, that one should be much lower. That is a bad movie.
That's the one that's kind of surprising, right? It could be.
Yeah, their first attempt at the Dark Phoenix saga.
The very bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is its Rotten Tomatoes?
57.
Right on the nose.
Yeah, I'd say it can't be much higher. The last one was 56. I'm like, that one can't be much higher because that is not a good film.
All right. So I don't want to rush you, but I also don't want to take up too much time on movies. So we'll keep moving. Number 8, The Wolverine.
Oh, okay. 58.
70.
Oh, wow. That's a big jump.
All of a sudden. I don't remember a whole lot about the Wolverine.
That's probably kind of the main knock against the Wolverine. Yeah. That it's kind of forgettable.
It's not a very memorable
James
film.
Mangold's kind of first effort.
So how about number 7 is X-Men.
Oh, the first X-Men.
Yes.
Okay. 75?
82.
Wow, these jumps are getting big.
You're getting a little pessimistic.
Yeah, these jumps are big. Okay.
Oh, wait. Sorry. It wasn't Deadpool 2 that was down there. It was Deadpool... Whoops.
What? There's only 2 Deadpool movies, so it's either Deadpool 2 or Deadpool 1.
No, it was Once Upon a Deadpool.
Oh, that's the PG-13 remake of the first Deadpool.
Oh, there you go.
That makes much more sense. I was like, what?
So now we are to Deadpool 2.
Oh, okay. That makes much more sense.
Sorry, I misread my notes.
Yeah.
So it's number 6.
Okay. 87.
84.
Ah,
all right, so now we're in the top 5.
Okay.
What would be your number 1?
What would be my number 1?
Yeah.
It's not going to be number 1 on the list.
Okay.
My number 1 is X2, X-Men United.
Ooh, it comes in at number 5, actually. Which surprises me because I feel as if X2 gets a lot of positive.
It does, but people
buzz.
kind of forget about it, I think.
Yeah.
Because I will still say that pound for pound, that is still one of the best superhero movies.
Boxing metaphor.
Still today.
Yeah.
Like that film is still they do such a good job in that film. Particularly given how early we are in the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had like these big team franchise movies.
Yeah.
And the story is pretty much flawless.
And of that first run at the X-Men, it's by far the best of the 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'd say for me it's by far the best of all the X-Men films.
Okay. All right, but Rotten Tomatoes disagreed.
Yeah, I know.
What did they say?
85? I forget what number we're at.
Straight on.
Yeah, I forget.
Killing it. All right, number 4 is Deadpool.
Okay.
I want to take a guess at what it came in at?
90?
85.
Oh, okay. I thought it'd be a little bit higher than X2.
It just seems like it would have gotten a better response than that.
Yeah. So that means Deadpool 2 is higher than Deadpool, isn't it?
No, Deadpool 2 is at 84.
Oh, we already did it. Okay.
Yeah, Deadpool is at 85.
Oh, okay. So that
Sorry.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So that leaves 3 films.
Well, it's obviously it's Days of Future Past, and then Logan's in there,
and First Class.
Oh, First Class. I forgot about First Class. Yeah, that's right.
So, how do you stack those 3 up? Let's see if you and Rotten Tomatoes agree.
Those 3, I would go Logan 1, Future Past 2, First Class 3.
It's like you and Rotten Tomatoes are on the exact same wavelength.
It's like my tastes are as bland as everyone else's.
Oh my God, that's like a really sad demographic realization. That
it's like,
you really don't have your own opinion.
I have the exact same taste as the hoi polloi.
Well, is it the hoi polloi on Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't know what it is.
So, you want to take a guess at X-Men First Class, which might be my... No, that's not. I would put X-Men
You really
First
like
Class
X-Men.
second.
You really do like X-Men First Class.
Well, it's got the history.
Yeah.
And it's got...
It's a good, solid film.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, it's a good, solid film.
Days of Future Past was a little bloated to me. Like, it just... Like
90 for X-Men First Class?
86.
86. Okay, so we're not in the 90s yet.
Yep, so Days of Future Past.
90?
90.
Okay.
Yep. And then, I think we both agree, Logan is the best X-Men film. No, because you said...
I still go
X2.
I really like X2. I mean, it's a very close between the two.
So you'd put Logan second? Or first or second?
I put one. Can I do a 1A and a 1B?
Sure, you can.
Because, they're 1A and 1B.
All right, you want to take a guess at Logan's score?
94.
Did you see that?
No.
That's exactly right. Like you did. We should swap who asks and who answers numbers from now on, because that was freaky. I mean,
I'm just tuned into the zeitgeist.
You are a Hall & Oates guy.
Which is a better way of saying it than I have the bland taste of the hoi polloi.
That's right. If you take all of Americans and you average their opinions, you have
Hi!
100%
average. What's on TNT this week? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, while I'm on this page, before I forget, did you ever play the 90s X-Men board game?
Oh, board. I thought you say the video game.
Yeah. I have it at home.
No, I've never played the X-Men board. I didn't even know there was an X-Men.
You should come over
game.
and play it sometime.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a great show.
Yeah. Well, remember what happened when we did Trivial Pursuit?
Yeah, but it would just be you and I.
It was not a
it
great
would not
show.
be. It would just be you and I and Zach. It wouldn't be, the other people.
It was not a good show.
Yeah.
Not a good show. All right, so there you have it. Numbers.
All right. Excellent.
I have other numbers for you, too.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about favorite and least favorite characters?
Sure.
Because Entertainment Weekly did a listing of the top 100.
Oh, wow.
And the bottom are really bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, same thing if we do. You've got to kind of nuance that a little bit. Because, same with Avengers. There are a lot of garbage Avengers.
Yes.
So you have to kind of set aside. Like, it's too easy to say, well, yes, Maggot or Stacy X or any of those people
are
terrible.
Got 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
when
I would sort of set aside like all of those.
Right. When I was making my list of least favorite before I looked online, number 1 on my list was Maggot.
Yeah.
Dumb. Second on my list was Marrow.
Okay.
Third on my list, I wrote the one with the pheromones. I couldn't remember Stacy
That's
X's
Stacy
name.
X.
Yeah. And then I never really liked Angel.
Okay. See, I would Angel's a legitimate kind of like.
Yeah, like
yeah.
Whether he was the rich playboy or he was the like angsty Archangel, like I don't think they've ever.
I do like him. I do like Archangel, but Angel is garbage.
I've never found. I'd say Warren Worthington the third. Is it the third?
It is the third.
Warren Worthington the third. I've never found him to be compelling in any kind of iteration.
Yeah.
Do you have some favorites before I give you this guy's favorites so we can kind of compare and contrast?
Well, my favorite X-Men is Nightcrawler. Like that's
Nightcrawler. I think is a very popular.
I love
choice.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
I like kind of particularly I should clarify that. I like the Nightcrawler that is the joie de vivre, swashbuckling.
You don't like the angsty religious?
No, I do not like angsty religious Catholic. Which is the version that we kind of like. Everyone keeps going to for like, oh, we got to make Kurt Wagner serious. I'm like, no,
we don't.
He's fun. Keep him fun.
No, the fun.
Like that's the version of Nightcrawler I like.
Yeah, much. One of the things that was troubling for me in terms of picking favorite and least favorite characters. It kind of depends when.
Well, that's also
because they've been running for 60 years and they've all been recycled in different kinds of ways.
See, for me, least favorite.
Yeah,
and this is probably you may not. Because again, I set aside like all the like definitive loser characters.
Right. So it's going to be Punk Storm.
It's just Storm. I don't like Storm.
Wow.
I find her. Yeah.
That is.
I'm not a big Storm fan. Yeah.
That is a stunning call.
I don't. She's not one. I don't know what. There's just something about her character.
Yeah.
That I find kind of distancing.
Every list you look at has Storm right up there.
I know. That's
a hot take.
Yeah, I know. That's
do they
why
still say hot take nowadays.
I think they do.
Do they?
Not the kids, but people our age do. Yes.
Well, but we're reaching out to a broader audience.
But yeah, there's something about Storm that I just don't.
Wow.
Like.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a.
Yeah, Storm's just not.
When I sat down to make my list of most favorite.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler is near the top. I've always liked Kitty Pryde.
Shadowcat's my number 2.
But I feel as if the more I thought about it, I more prefer to think of favorite groupings.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to favorite individuals.
Okay.
So for me, I mean, I was introduced to 95,
I was gonna say,
right? So the original all new, all different team is sort of the team for me. And you can add Polaris and Havoc.
I do like Havoc.
And Sunfire. And characters like that. So that initial grouping. Although then as I was kind of thinking about it, the Outback team has really grown on me.
It's kind of interesting because for me that's that was the group that was in Inferno, so that was like my first.
Yeah.
And kind of the that X-Men 219 issue, which is the one where Havoc joins what becomes kind of the Outback team before they go there. So that whole era was kind of like my first real extended reading of the X-Men.
Right.
And so I have a soft spot for the Outback era, which I remember at the time people did not like the Outback era, but I think it's sort of gotten more kind of nostalgically, people appreciate it more.
I think that when it first arrived, X-Men was such a big title.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris Claremont, it felt as if he were taking all of that formula for success and trashing it.
Yeah.
To start over, which now I find really refreshing.
Yeah.
Given every reboot we get now is the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Every reboot we get
every
now
reboot
is how can we make it more like it used to be? And that's...
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that later. I think one of the problems with X-Men today is it's lost its way.
Yeah, but I do really that Outback grouping of, because it's Storm, it's Wolverine, it's Colossus, it's Psylocke, it's Dazzler, it's Rogue, it's Longshot.
Yeah.
Did I miss anyone? Jubilee's hanging around.
Right. Yeah, but it's a really
good
group.
team,
and it's a really interesting Psylocke too.
Yes. Yeah, because that's scary Psylocke.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Though I will say, my second least favorite character is Longshot.
I do not care for Longshot.
I find him very dull.
Can I be again? I'm not going to sound like an X-Men fan.
Mm-hmm.
The Mojoverse, never really what spoke to me most.
It wasn't one of the categories I gave you, but I did favorite and least favorite villain, and least favorite for me was Mojo. I don't find any except the X-Babies. I love the X-Babies.
I hate the
I know
X-Babies.
you hate the X-Babies.
Don't give me baby anything. If you're going to transform anything into a baby, I am not going to consume it.
But yeah, Mojo, every time he shows up, I don't. Yeah.
And the idea of it, we're going to do a critique of media and the way it turns people into these like these mindless zombies who just turn on TNT every night no matter what. That's a good critique to make of
don't like where that went
of media. But it never landed for me.
Mojo never.
It was always supposed to be kind of a romp too, and I just
You're not a romper?
I like a romp. It never felt like a romp to me. Like I want a romp to romp. So let me give you the Entertainment Weekly bottom 10.
Okay.
And see if you think they got anything wrong.
Okay.
Maggot.
Fine.
Next was Maggot was the least favorite. Okay. X-Man, Nate Gray.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Rachel Summers.
Oh, that's wrong. Wrong.
Really?
Wrong.
So you'd have Rachel at the top?
I mean, again, remember what's my first X-Men title?
Okay. All right.
Because she's probably I do like Rachel.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know that I necessarily have her near the top, but she does not deserve to be 98.
I agree. I think so often when you get the Summers Gray descendants kind of being pulled back.
Sorry, Adam X the Extreme is who belongs at that spot.
It's odd that Adam X isn't on this.
Yeah, he should be. Oh, he's not on the list? Okay, that list is.
Well, it might be somewhere else. I only did the bottom 10 and the top 15.
Okay, yeah, Rachel Summers, that's completely unfair.
Yeah. Here's what I think you're going to argue with. Pete Wisdom.
Nah.
Because he's an Excalibur guy.
He's an Excalibur guy, but he's the Warren Ellis era of Excalibur.
Yeah,
he's very kind of edgy and Wisdom. He's fine, but I'm not going to fight.
I never cared for Pete Wisdom, so that one's fine by me. Joseph, the Magneto clone.
That's fine.
Yeah, like any clone almost.
Yeah,
like
the best. So I'm reading the current Scarlet Witch series, and at the end of the just previous issue, Magneto shows up.
Yeah.
And then they go to the next issue where he's talking, and there's a point where she realizes who he is. And she's like, oh, Joseph.
And that's kind of
I'm like
every fan's response when he shows up on screen is like, oh,
Joseph. Yeah.
All right, here's the one I had the biggest complaint with in the bottom 10.
Okay.
Dr. Cecilia Reyes.
Oh, well, yeah.
She's not a top 10 character.
But she's also not the worst character.
I always found her really intriguing, and I always wish they had done more with her.
That's probably why she's down there, is because they didn't really do a lot.
Well,
with
they
her.
do complain that,
but she's not a terrible concept or anything,
right.
like some of the other ones.
Here's what they wrote: barely even wanted to be an X-Men.
Yeah,
barely was.
Yeah,
which is I always felt like she was a real missed opportunity to do something different.
They don't do justice to her character in New Mutants movie, let me just tell you.
Oh. Yeah. No, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Right. Strong Guy?
I like Strong Guy.
It's way too harsh on Strong Guy.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, again, the Peter David X Factor is another favorite.
See,
but Strong Guy I like.
When you read the you could read that every 5 years, and it always feels kind of fresh and funny and good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the therapy issue is just one of the best single issues ever.
In part because you read it and you think to yourself, why aren't they all going to therapists?
Yeah.
Because they all ought to be.
Yeah.
Wild Child.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. All of the Wolverine ripoff.
Well, now we're digging into the bowels of Alpha Flight right there. So that's going far. Yeah.
Is that a pun? Because Wild Child would dig into people's bowels?
No.
Okay. Stacy X. I think we agree.
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah, Random was
Dumb.
kind of a misfire. Maybe the one misfire in the Peter David X Factor. In that,
Yeah.
I think he introduced him late, and then I think he left the title, and so Random never really got a chance to.
And he became just sort of a poster child for all that was wrong for that era
Yeah.
of comics. Okay, and then number 90.
Mhm.
This one I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. Megan.
Oh, come on!
See, I had a feeling.
Unacceptable.
Here's what he writes.
Unacceptable.
He
Oh,
writes,
it's not cool.
interesting in theory,
Oh.
co-created by Alan Moore,
Oh.
boring in practice.
Ugh.
Uh-oh, wait. Though I bet there's like a really big Megan fan who uses her image as their desktop wallpaper.
I don't use her image as my
Okay,
desktop wallpaper, but yeah, that is
checking.
completely unfair to Megan.
I don't think she should be bottom 10.
Yeah.
She also feels like a character different from Reyes, but similar in that I never really, and maybe I didn't read enough of the Excalibur
Well,
stuff. in
I
which
mean,
she
that's the thing.
featured,
Well,
but-
the other issue too is that like she's mainly in Excalibur,
Yeah.
and then she's not really used outside of that. So.
Right, and I didn't read a ton of Excalibur, but when
Yeah.
I was reading, she always seemed kind of subsidiary to Captain Britain.
She is, at least until Alan Davis shows up and
Yeah.
and kind of starts to fix her character, and then other people come on and
Yeah.
take her backwards. So,
So it'd be fair to say that even you think she has kind of a mixed
she's mixed,
record
but
in
that
terms
seems
of
I'd
placing.
say that's way
Yeah.
too low.
Okay. So let me give you a quick run through the top 15.
No, but goodness. Okay.
Well, just we can some of them I think you're going to be stunned by.
Okay.
And
I'm
some you might
clearly
want to
way
comment
over
on.
prepared for this show.
What?
I have 5 pages of single space notes.
I have 10.
We're not getting to anything.
Okay, so we'll go to your stuff
That's
next.
fine. It's fine. No, I mean characters was part of it. So
Husk, number 15.
way too high,
right?
Way
I mean,
too.
not
Oh,
even-
come on.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Also, not an X. I get. Was she an X-Men? Not
They
really.
all
She was
become an
Gen-
X-Men eventually,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah, no, way too high.
Okay, how about Mystique?
That's fine.
Okay,
She's a classic character.
13. Professor X.
Way too high. He sucks.
He's terrible. He's the worst.
Yeah,
He is almost always the worst.
You know what? He's a jerk.
It's a Kitty Pryde reference.
Thank you.
Yep.
Professor Xavier is a jerk.
Yep. One of the classic title or covers.
Title.
Yeah, but isn't it?
It's the splash page.
Oh, it's a splash page. There you go. Havoc.
I can live with that. I like Havoc. I'd
Oh.
probably have him higher, but I'm glad to see he made the top 15.
11. Colossus.
Fine.
Yep. I
Maybe
agree.
a little low, but I like Colossus.
10. Blink.
I like Blink, but that's probably too high for Blink.
Blink is overrated.
I like, yeah.
Yeah.
She was great in the Exiles comic,
Right.
But yeah,
not that she hasn't been
but
great.
that's probably a little too high for Blink.
all right. So Deadpool. Too high.
Yeah,
Too
same.
high.
I mean, I
No?
know people love Deadpool, but yeah.
Deadpool the movie maybe, but yeah. This one I think we'll agree on. Gambit. Way too high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it should
I'm
not
not
be.
surprised to see him that high, but
He should not.
he's a lot of shtick.
Yeah. Most of it bad.
Yeah.
All right. 7. Beast.
I can live with that.
Got to be. 6. Cable.
Too high for Cable.
Too high for. We agree on a lot of this
We do.
stuff. Definitely too high for Cable. Nightcrawler. 5.
Too low for Nightcrawler.
4. Rogue.
Yeah, it's about to be expected. I'd probably flip those two.
Yeah. 3. Uh-oh.
Way too high if that's Storm.
Storm.
Yeah, sorry.
2. Cyclops.
Okay. Is Jean Grey Phoenix number 1?
Wolverine's number 1.
Oh my
Jean
God!
Grey
Phoenix didn't make the
top 15.
Oh, that is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Then
No, Jean Grey is a top 5.
she's at least top 10. Yeah, I don't know that I'd make her top 5, but she's
Not
at least top 10.
5. Not
No?
top. No. Maybe top. Maybe she squeak into the 16 or 15 spot.
No, she's
Jean
probably
Grey?
higher. Yeah, I'd have her higher than that. Well, it depends. Are we
liked
talking
that.
Marvel Gold Jean Grey or Phoenix Jean Grey? Because Phoenix Jean Grey should be up there. Because Phoenix Jean Grey is awesome.
Well, but it's all yeah, like that's the problem in part. But yeah, it's so there you go. Anything else on characters that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so because I've already trashed Storm, so that's good.
Okay. So how about artists? That's what I had next on the list
Okay,
of what you sent me.
that works. Yep.
So when I sat down to start making a list of artists,
Mhm.
there were more than I thought.
They have a really good run. I mean,
It
I
really started to pile up.
I sat down and thinking about it, particularly with the new X-Men. You go from Cockrum to Byrne, back to Cockrum to Paul Smith to John Romita Jr. before his art got really blocky,
Yeah.
to Mark Silvestri to Jim Lee. If you're skipping over some fill-ins and whatnot, but that's a pretty good track record of artists.
Well, and I mean, you've hit any number that I listed.
Yeah.
You can't talk about X-Men and artists and not talk about John Byrne.
Yeah, as much as we might not want
Whatever
to these days.
we might think about
Yeah,
him
it's
as
hard,
a
yeah.
political actor
Yeah,
in the world today.
or a person.
Right. The stuff
Oh,
that he did still stands out,
mm-hmm.
and in some
Us.
ways is working to revolutionize the
Yeah.
business. I think. I mean,
Yeah.
his stuff is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And he used to complain, right, about it was Terry Austin that inked him.
I love Air Austin.
That Austin made it too easy.
Oh.
But the two of them together,
yeah,
they could draw almost anything.
I mean, it's interesting because they've done stuff like they did an Avengers West. I think they did an Avengers West Coast annual when he was writing it, and they brought Austin back as an inker, and they were not a good match in that.
Interesting.
Okay, it looked the line looked much thinner and scratchier than I was used to. Like, but back then, oh my god, like Byrne Austin is
one of the classic.
I mean that's just some of the best Marvel art. Period.
Yeah.
Is Byrne Austin. So again, given my love of Excalibur, I do love me some Alan Davis art.
Alan Davis is second on my list.
Yeah,
actually.
like Alan Davis.
Although a couple I might have in front of it, but his stuff.
Like Alan Davis is just, I mean, hands down, probably my favorite artist. Period.
Well,
love Davis.
The thing about Davis is, whenever you see him, you know him.
Oh yeah,
he has this unique style that is his, and he owns it.
Yeah,
and nobody else has ever been able to replicate.
There's some, like Brian Hitch comes close.
They try,
though Hitch has early Hitch is very in the Alan Davis mode. He's moved away from that.
But even
there's some others. Mark Buckingham, I think, somewhat there, but
it always feels like a replica. Of what Davis, Alan Davis is. Yeah, terrific.
Davis is. Yeah,
he wrote important stuff too.
His run on Excalibur as writer is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. So one name you didn't mention was Mark Silvestri.
I did not. I mentioned him in my list.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, of like my run of people.
Oh, okay. So Silvestri, in retrospect, I appreciate more than I did maybe even when I read the comic book. So I think somebody you didn't have because he's more recent. How about Chris Bacalo?
I do like Bacalo or Bacalo. I forget how to. I'm not sure how to pronounce. Yeah,
but
sometimes his art gets a little hard to follow at times. You need to have either the right inker or the right. Sometimes his stuff makes it fair, but I do like his art.
But what he brought,
his Generation X is great stuff.
Was terrific.
And Wolverine in the X-Men was really good.
And then when he shifted into the more mainstream Marvel, it was very different.
Yeah,
but he made it work, which I think is hard because if you kind of look at what we're talking about, there's always been sort of an X-Men look, even if it kind of morphed.
Yeah.
But
well, it's always, I mean, particularly in the early, with Cockrum,
Yeah.
Byrne, Paul Smith, like it's always had a very clean, clear kind of line to it. And that's not Bogolo, but I do like his art.
But Paul Smith is a big sleeper pick for me.
Yeah.
Didn't draw a ton.
Yeah.
But I love his run on the title.
Yeah. Well, 175, the Cyclops Madeline Pryor wedding issue where Mastermind comes back. Like that's I mean, one of my favorite single issues in X-Men.
Yeah.
Is that.
Yeah.
And that's Paul Smith at the top of his game.
Really good. All right. So you mentioned Dave Cockrum, who deserves credit as
oh yeah. I mean,
kind of the foundation in many ways.
He designed all of the new X-Men.
His stuff is classic in a throwback kind of style.
Yeah.
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 The one that maybe this is my Storm version of artists, is John Romita Jr. Even when he was pre-blocky, John Romita Jr., his stuff never spoke to me like the other people around him did.
Yeah.
And I know, like, to say that is to criticize how many issues did he draw? I mean, he was
there for a decent amount of time because he basically is after Paul Smith, so that would be like around the 170s. And he's basically around into like the 210s.
Yeah.
Because he leaves, I think, I don't think he does any of the Mutant Massacre stuff.
I don't think so.
So I think he leaves but he does do the Hellfire Club battle that's right before the Mutant Massacre. Yeah. So he's around until like 209 or something like that. Yeah,
the big trial of Magneto. Was that 200?
That's 200,
yeah.
So he's there for a good, 40 issues-ish?
Yeah, even when I was reading them at the time.
Yeah.
And then he came back, I believe, later, right? Doesn't he?
Did he come back? He might. Oh, yeah, he does. Around 300 or so he comes back. And that's when he's in his big blocky style that I don't care for as much.
So maybe the blocky more recently colors it, but I remember reading it as a kid and feeling like something had been lost.
I think the other issue you have with, and I don't know how much of this is John Romita Jr., but the team during that time and how the team looked, because that's Rachel Summers in the leg warmers.
It definitely has.
That's big purple white M outfit Magneto. Like there is some ugly looks during that era.
I wonder how much of that he designed.
And that's what I don't recall.
The question. Yeah.
Like I had a thing on here of best and worst costumes, and like purple white M Magneto is right up there.
You go late 80s, 90s, and you kind of hit all of that. I think for the worst.
Yeah.
More recently, I've always liked Carlos Pacheco.
Oh yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Tragic. But
Oh, Pacheco stuff. Well, he did Avengers Forever with Music. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
Pacheco, and had a run on Excalibur. His art is, I love Pacheco.
I feel as if he really fits in the long tradition that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So he was one of my more recent favorites.
Yeah,
and of course,
he's such a good artist.
I have to mention Bill Sienkiewicz. Am I allowed to pull him in?
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause his run on New Mutants is almost
Which he wasn't on New Mutants very long. I always thought he had like a very long run on New Mutants, but he actually wasn't there for terribly long. But he certainly left a mark.
Bobby bought the omnibus Moon Knight.
Oh, yeah.
And I hadn't really seen
his
Sienkiewicz stuff.
Yeah. His Moon Knight, I mean, the Sienkiewicz Moon Knight. I mean, that's the definitive Moon Knight.
The guy's very, very talented.
Yeah.
Very talented.
Yeah.
Yep. So anything else? That's my list of artists. Have I missed anybody?
Well, in terms of worst artists.
Oh, okay.
I had Liefeld because he did issue 245, which allows me to get him in there.
Yeah. Well,
because it's Liefeld.
He also did all that X Factor stuff, which counts as X-Men, right?
X Factor stuff.
Oh, X-Force.
Yeah, I was saying
X-Force stuff.
Yeah, but I was thinking purely X-Men artists. So I mean, Liefeld's an easy one. But I mean, there's not. I mean, except for like some of the fill-in people,
right?
There's not really a lot of.
No, they've been pretty well staffed.
They've been pretty well staffed in terms of. I mean, even setting. I mean, if you set aside kind of like that when you get into like the post-Claremont era, you're in kind of your Image '90s style art. You know, Kubert and Art Thibert and all those people and
Portasio.
It's got a certain.
I really liked.
I like Portasio. Yeah. But they've got a certain look to them that nowadays is a little much, but
right. Yeah. Well, it's definitely that
the excesses of the 90s
machismo kind of. Yeah. So here's who we didn't talk about on CBR's 10 best list.
Okay.
See if you think we should have Andy Kubert.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean the Kuberts
and of course Adam Kubert.
Oh, you know who we didn't talk about?
Who's that?
Art Adams.
Wow.
Yeah. I just realized we didn't talk about Art Adams at all.
Big name in the field.
Big name, would pop up here or there. Like he never did an extended run.
Right. I think that's why I don't think of him as an X-Men artist.
But he did a bunch. He did a lot of really big annuals and things like that. So.
Yeah. No, it's true. You a fan of the Kuberts?
They're fine. Yeah. I mean, they're still very that 90s kind of art for me.
Kind of like trying to make a transition. But kind of trapped by it. We didn't talk about Frank Quitely.
Not a big... Yeah, Quitely's art didn't...
It was an effort to do something really radically different. But and then
and he was just so inconsistent on when he could actually do that. Like the new X-Men run by Morrison, like is very uneven in terms of art.
Yeah.
So
and then Jim Lee, does he deserve any more discussion than you're lumping him in with the excess 90s?
Well, I wouldn't. I really do like Jim Lee art. Jim Lee art is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like I do like Jim Lee as an artist.
And
he's the best of kind of that image. In my opinion, he's the best of that Image 90s.
I agree, and I think that
kind of group.
That it's really Jim Lee who takes X-Men to the next level.
And then leaves like 2 days later.
Well, first he kind of forced Claremont out.
Yeah, and then he leaves.
Then he leaves for Image, and I don't know. I will say this. I think it's true. Wildcats doesn't quite measure up. To the work he was doing at Marvel.
No.
Yeah. So anything else on your artist list?
No, that's pretty much all I've got.
All right. So
I've got favorite storyline.
Yep, that's where I've got next.
Okay.
If you want to go there.
That works.
All right.
Again, setting aside the obvious ones. Dark Phoenix Saga. I did. Dark Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past. But I have to say one of my favorite, even if I don't set those aside, one of my favorites is the Proteus Saga that's right before the Dark Phoenix Saga.
I have that. So I found the list on CBR.
Such a good storyline. Just good 10 superhero team comics. Like you get the current team, and then they're teaming up. They're reuniting with Jean Grey after everyone thinks everybody's dead. Havoc, Polaris, Madrix are all there because they're on Muir Island. Like it's so much good stuff. You get the shattering of Wolverine's confidence by Proteus's.
Yeah, it's right at the top.
Yeah,
of my list
it's
of
such a
people
good
never talk about.
Yeah, well, I think because the next issue is the first issue of Dark Phoenix Saga, and so it kind of gets overshadowed. But Proteus is so good.
You're right. The Proteus stuff is so important.
Yeah.
In leading into it.
Yeah.
It should be there.
I 100% agree. Proteus. Underrated classic.
All right, so number one on the CBR list was Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get it.
No, I can't argue with that. It's a great storyline.
Nobody's been able to escape it.
No one's been able to do it justice on film.
Yeah, yeah, or to revisit it. Even I think they've struggled. So you had that. You had Days of Future Past, which is those
obviously the top two,
and not just because it was it's more than one, but it's only two, right? Like it's a very
the original one it's 141 and 142.
Yeah. So it didn't have to be sprawling.
It was supposed to be self-contained. That
Right.
was that's part of that's one of the fractures between Byrne and Claremont, because Claremont had told Byrne that it would just be a one-off thing and the world would be destroyed at the end, and then when it was published, Claremont in the script left the door open for it. That was one of the things that annoyed Byrne.
It is this early look at where comics are going in terms of dark dystopian kinds of futures.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant. So I would have the Brood storyline up there too.
Okay,
the initial one.
Yeah,
like the first time.
The Paul Smith era one
with
is that I think
there's one before that, right? I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember who drew it.
Is there real?
There's a Paul Smith one, but isn't there?
Well, maybe there's a Cockrum one. I think there's the Cockrum second one. See, they're so close together that I tend to think of them as the same thing, but I think they actually are different.
Smith is like the space whales.
Yes.
And all of that kind of stuff. I really like those. Not a huge fan of what's happened with the Brood ever since.
Yeah.
But those two, I think, stand up. So that was not in this guy's top 10 list. But no, it is. Sorry. It barely squeaks in. But to me, the Brood saga deserves to be in the problem, I think, with current X-Men is so much of it is trying to recapture often too directly Dark Phoenix, the Brood,
Days of
Future Past, right? It's all going back to that
yeah.
So we agree then on the top, unless you disagree on the Brood.
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily have the Brood that high. This will be kind of an odd duck, but I think one of the better X-Men storylines is Avengers Annual 10. It's where they introduce Rogue. And where Carol Danvers starts associating with the X-Men. And where everyone kicks the Avengers around for the events of Avengers 200. So
the stories that follow are really great X-Men stories. I agree. And that's some Paul Smith stuff too, right?
The Annual is Michael Golden.
Yeah, but when Rogue
that would
kind
be
of first shows up,
I think that's 171, so I think that's right
Wolverine
around.
Are kind of like on the run together. And the stuff they did with Ms. Marvel and Rogue is terrific.
Yep.
I can understand why you'd want to make it an Avengers
Of
story.
course, Avengers Annual 10, great story. Great X-Men story. It's not a great Avengers story because it's basically Claremont pointing out everything the Avengers did wrong in 200.
Well,
but maybe we'll talk about that in our Avengers show.
The Avengers show is going to be interesting because I do not know the Avengers.
That's fine.
So
I know a thing or two.
Yeah. Yes. So I've been told. Other stories on your list?
I mentioned the 175, the marriage of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
And then another one that I really love is Uncanny 239, which is the prologue to Inferno. Which is just a really... I generally love kind of downtime issues.
Yeah.
And that's one that does particularly since that was like my first... I think it was my first introduction to the Australian team.
Yeah.
Like the way it kind of checks in with each character and kind of gives a little bit of... It's just a really well done issue. So
Claremont was on his game.
Yeah. And I will say, I think Inferno's probably the best of those kind of big Marvel 80s crossovers.
The crossovers are going to get worse.
Like all the other ones don't quite... Like Inferno actually worked in a way that the others I don't... Like
You're
Inferno,
not a fan of Extinction Agenda?
Oh, I'm thinking about things like Acts of Vengeance.
Yeah.
I mean, Extinction Agenda it has a good story, but the art kills it. Like you've got Jim Lee doing X-Men, Liefeld doing New Mutants, and you got Bogdanove doing X Factor. And it's just
the Bogdanove.
The art does like it's such a jarring shift to all of them.
Yeah.
So Extinction Agenda is hurt by that.
Yeah, it's also in my mind it's hurt by it's clearly intended to be an event.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like more an event sometimes to me than even a story.
Well, also part of it that really annoys me is if you look at the original advertising, it was advertised as crossing over between Uncanny, New Mutants, X Factor, and Excalibur. And then Excalibur got dropped out of it for some reason. I'm like, well, that's not cool.
No, not for an Excalibur.
Excalibur disrespect.
Yeah. Okay, so CBR had others. You want me to toss a couple at you? How about Schism?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's didn't care. I mean, I think the Wolverine and the X-Men title that I think came out of Schism, but Schism itself felt a little bit forced.
How about Uncanny X-Force?
Oh, the original?
The
That
Remender
was
stuff.
the Remender
That's-
stuff is great.
It's very
And
good.
Jerome
Yeah.
Pena, like that is some good comics right there.
All right, so we agree on that one.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Exogenetic.
I don't even know what that is.
It was Warren Ellis and Phil Jimenez. I
Yeah.
didn't read it. He lists X-Men number 30, which is a different wedding.
Oh, the Jean Grey wedding. That was a
Yeah.
good wedding issue.
Yeah, especially because it doesn't have all the problems.
Yeah.
Number 5 for him was House of X, Powers of 10. Powers of X.
It's Powers of 10.
Okay, Powers of 10. Which I think
That's really good.
I think that's the closest the X-Men universe in comic books has come to kind of peak Claremont stuff. Disagree? I think it's the Moira stuff is just.
See, for me, I
astonishingly
think I would actually argue, going back to kind of your earlier point about how they're always kind of retreading things.
Yeah.
It's a recent storyline that actually seems to be trying to do something different.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Even though, I mean, obviously you've got Nimrod and people coming back from the future,
Right.
so it's got a little bit of Days of Future Pasty stuff in there.
It does.
But it still feels different, and it's set up a really good concept, which was what Hickman is great at. Hickman is great at concepts.
Oh. Once we get past those two, I think it's been downhill since then.
There have been moments where
Sure,
I think it's peaked back up, but again, it's
right. Maybe not like but it's like generally the direction has been a downward trajectory.
Yeah, well, because Hickman is clearly building towards something.
Yeah,
but some of the ways he's getting there, like the first run of X-Men comics that he does, where it's like a different storyline each issue, different characters. Like there's not really any continuity. Yeah. The first villains they fight are the old botanist ladies, horticulture.
Yeah, the horticulture.
I'm just like, that's who we're going with out of the gate.
So to me,
evil botanist ladies, like, ugh.
But so your criticism though is moving beyond what I would define as I would just do House of.
Oh, House of and Powers is great.
It's great.
Great stuff.
And then I agree with you.
Excellent stuff.
From there, it goes downhill. Fourth for him was Age of Apocalypse, which you've not mentioned.
Oh, I forgot about Age of Apocalypse. That was I actually collected the entirety of Age of Apocalypse. I did enjoy Age of Apocalypse.
I was teaching at a community college when that came out.
Yeah,
and I had a guy who managed a comic book shop and brought me like all this like extra special stuff about it. But in retrospect, it feels a little gimmicky at times.
Oh, it totally is, but I enjoy it.
But it was. Like Days of Future Past, kind of on steroids.
Yeah,
but
I
would not have it number 4 on my list.
Yeah,
but I would
maybe a little high, but
Mutant Genesis, which is the Claremont Lee New Beginning.
Oh, okay. It's a good like the 3 issues they did, X-Men 1, 2, and 3, are really good.
Yeah, although the Acolytes never really quite.
No, but there's a lot of the Acolytes, the Upstarts. There's a lot of things that don't really work, that don't really quite land. Yeah.
And then number 2, he has New X-Men.
Oh, the Grant Morrison?
Yeah. It's too high, right?
Yeah, it's probably too high. I mean, it's, again, trying to do something different. But part of my problem, too, particularly if you read the Morrison Manifesto that includes, it's so much built on kind of trashing, like, classic superhero comics that I'm like,
Yeah.
And I'm glad like, one of his plans was to kill off Rogue and replace her with, like, a gothy character called Rogue, and I'm like, I'm glad they didn't do that because that never would have worked.
No.
But he did sort of
middle-aged men writing gothy kids.
He did refurbish Emma Frost though.
Yeah.
So
true. She has been refurbished,
which again largely because he originally wrote it thinking he would have Colossus, and then Colossus was dead, so he brought in Emma Frost and then gave her the Diamond powers.
Yeah. Not sure about secondary mutations.
That's been kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, like a lot of stuff has been hit or miss, and I feel as if currently the X-Men universe suffers from just being so big and so sprawling.
Yeah,
and that's partly Hickman's fault. Like the universe he built or started to build has gotten.
Well,
do we need to terraform
Mars? Well, the issue is it's partly Hickman's fault, and then it's also the issue of Hickman clearly had an endpoint that he was getting to.
Right.
And for whatever reason, the X Office or whatever, they decided they didn't want to end it yet.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things that I really liked about that second Inferno limited series.
Yeah.
Particularly where you have Magneto and Xavier fighting the Nimrod and Omega Sentinel. They're cut off from the backup system.
Yeah.
And basically revealed like all of their, the Sentinel's secret plans. and then kind of put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so this is clearly Hickman putting that on a shelf because we now know it, but nobody else knows that that's there, and he can just come back to it whenever he wants.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like they made a mistake in kind of wanting to prolong things.
Yeah, and embiggen things, like constantly getting bigger. And to me, like part of the beauty of Days of Future Past, it's 2 issues.
Yeah,
and it's got a great punch to it. Whereas this one, it felt like it punched itself out a while
well,
ago.
even
And there's so many different titles within it, and they're constantly getting rebooted.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to organize comic books anymore.
It's hard. But yeah, well, and even the most recent Hellfire Gala, which had like the big attack on Krakoa and whatnot, felt so perfunctory to me because it was like, we know this is coming. Like they teased it for months. It's like, they're gonna get absolutely bushwhacked. And I'm like, okay, so it just felt like very going through the motions. And
right.
I do like some of the direction that it's going in now. There's some things that don't make sense, like in the X-Men Gala when they announced it, like Sync and Talon are now the new leaders of the X-Men. They're like, because they've earned it. And I'm like, okay, Sync's been around.
Right.
This version of Talon just showed up 5 issues ago. Yeah. And has been on one mission with you guys. And you're like, she's ready to lead. I'm like, It's the weird thing. It's the weird thing about the Hellfire Gala, because for us, a year has passed between the galas.
Right.
In terms of comic book time, it's been a year. Right. But it only feels like it's been a couple months because of how decompressed comics are these days.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, no, it's...
But yeah, plus I really liked the first of the new X-Men teams. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Rogue, Polaris, Sync.
Yeah.
Wolverine, the Laura Kinney Wolverine. Like, I really liked those 12 issues. When they just replaced them again at the second Hellfire Gala, like the team that came into place, I was like, I don't care about that team.
Well, in part because, despite my complaint about it all being too big, if you really want to do character development in comic books, you've got to let a group sit together for more than 12 issues. Like you need a couple of years.
Well, and that's the thing. I thought the group that sat together for those first 12 issues, I actually thought that did work as a group.
Yeah.
The problem is the second group never felt like they really sat together.
And I'm not saying that it didn't work as a group, but you need to give them a second year together to really reach new levels of insight and empathy for these characters. And sometimes I pick up an X-Men comic book today, and there's all these characters running across the state, and I don't even know who.
A lot of characters.
Who is that? That just like was in 2 panels and is gone.
Yeah.
When they're just hanging out on Krakoa, like drinking at the Blob's restaurant or whatever.
Yeah. It's tiki bar.
More of a bar.
Yeah, than a restaurant. More of a tiki bar.
But I okay, and then I feel bad. I'm supposed to know all these characters, and I don't anymore.
Well, the other issue with Krakoa is I liked the idea of like them finally founding their own nation and whatnot. Yeah. But very quickly, a lot of the heroic X-Men characters became kind of unpleasant.
Right.
Like I was just like, they don't seem like good guys anymore.
And maybe there's something they're trying to talk about there, the way in which when you come into power, it shifts who you are. Or but it doesn't feel developed enough to.
Well, but also I also have a problem in like, okay, so they've been a metaphor for minorities for the longest time, and now we're showing that when we give minorities power, they kind of become corrupt. I'm like, that's not.
It does seem problematic.
Setting aside the separatism that's inherent in them as well, which is problematic. It's like they're we've given the minorities power, and now they're all of a sudden corrupt, and they're terraforming planets, and they're this massive threat. And I'm like, that's not great. I don't think they intend any of that, but that's
not at all. But the problem is they've got 60 years.
Yeah.
Well, not 60 years, but close to 60 years of kind of racial metaphor.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that,
built in.
I have a fair or foul for you.
Excellent, because I think we need to start wrapping up, and fair or foul is how we wrap.
Yeah, this is so. I got a couple. I thought you'd enjoy this. So so the first one is going back to. So this is a take on the Dark Phoenix saga.
Okay.
For the past 2 years, I've watched the book degenerate, watched the X-Men become a perversion of what they once were. Watch you twist and mangle characters you virtually created.
Is this a letter you wrote?
I first decided to stop buying during the Hellfire Club storyline, but held on for sentimental reasons and a vague hope that things would get better. During the Dark Phoenix story, I again decided to quit, but upon hearing what the conclusion would be, decided to stick around till Cyclops left. And now, I can no longer justify buying the X-Men, not even to keep my collection complete. Each issue hurts too much.
Wow. I think that I'm gonna cry foul.
Okay.
You have to let your art grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people complaining about Metallica because the Black Album sounds different from what came before.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let the art grow. Is that you? Did you write that letter
No,
to the editor?
that is a letter published in X-Men 143 from one young Kurt Busiek.
Really?
Yeah, it's popped up on Twitter lately. Like
That's very interesting.
He just ripped it. Yeah,
How old was he when he wrote that?
Oh, he must have been in his teens, I would guess.
Because he's certainly written stuff that's moved on.
Oh yeah.
Path,
yeah. I don't know how much he agrees with that today.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I
can see why people would be upset. The X-Men were always the X-Men.
Yeah.
And now they were becoming something different. That, by the way, probably redefined what superhero comics were going to become. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to like it.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of the X-Men's metaphor of race and whatnot.
Yeah.
X-Men was a flawed but truly sincere attempt to address social concerns about race via stories of genetic difference. Stan Lee paralleled extra powers to racial and ethnic difference, and it is in this parallel that Lee tripped over his own racial metaphor, often producing stories that blamed the victim for racism and discrimination.
I have to think. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. That sounds like something very scholarly.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
Yes.
Like there's real
heft to it.
There's an insight.
Mm-hmm.
Like to call it fair is unfair.
Is it the fairest of the fair?
It's more than fair. Like what transcends fair?
Yeah. Just spot on.
It is exactly the truth.
Yeah.
And the first part, I think people often forget that as sincere as Lee was.
Yes.
It was flawed from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that's I'm going to go super ultra fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Who said that?
That's from All New, All Different: History of Race in the American Superhero by Alan Austin and Patrick Hamilton.
We should check that.
Available from University of Texas Press and find booksellers everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. People should. I know I'm going to go and buy me a copy as soon as this podcast is
buy
done.
me copy?
Buy me a copy. That's what I meant to say. Buy me a copy.
Buy me copy.
Buy me copy. I'm going to go buy. I might buy two because that sounds like the kind of. I bet these Austin and Hamilton blokes, they sound like guys that would sign a book too.
Oh yeah.
So maybe get one that I'm going to read and one that I'm going to get them to sign, and then I'm going to polybag it.
Good plan. Oh,
it's going to be
board it. You got to board it.
Put a board.
Get that first edition.
Seal that bag. Get a first. I hope it's still in its first. It's so smart. It seems like it would be headed for a second edition.
We could only hope.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on X-Men?
Yeah, we're smarter than I thought we were. That sounds pretty good, actually. I hope that they can reclaim or find again a path forward that because they're a little lost right now.
Yeah.
But I think in many ways, well, not in many ways, but at least in some small way, reading X-Men and the way in which it was wrestling with issues of identity made me think about issues of identity. And I'm not saying that led me to become an immigration historian, but it was probably like a little nudge somewhere along the path of thinking about the world differently for a kid who was growing up in northeastern Ohio where maybe diversity was not the most obvious thing. How about you?
I was going to go with which is a better costume for Wolverine. The blue and yellow or the brown and tan?
Yeah, the blue and yellow is classic.
It is, but I'm sorry.
Something about
brown
the brown
and tan.
Yeah, like when he switched,
100% brown and tan.
Yeah.
I don't know why they haven't switched him back to that.
I'm not going to say 100%.
Day one, I'm writing X-Men.
Yeah.
He's back in the brown and tan.
That's your first change.
Yeah, well, also, I might kill off Storm. But brown and tan, 100%.
You just disqualified yourself from ever being considered for the job. But yeah. So we agree on brown and tan.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And that we're really smart.
Yeah, this was more fun than I thought it would be. Actually.
Just wait till Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right. I'm going to do the same thing next week. I'm going to CBR and I'm pulling lists.
Fantastic.
Just so you know.
That's cool.
And then I'm going to say things and you're just going to talk.
I will not be preparing 5 pages of notes then.
I don't think you'll need to. All right.
All right.
So, on to the Avengers.
So happy 60th, X-Men.
That's right. Happy 60th.